This is that moment that we've really been looking forward to. This is our top 10 board games of all time.
Welcome to Box Meeples, I'm Julian and this is Libby, and that's right, we have reached the conclusion in our countdown of the best board games of all time. Now, obviously we've covered games 50 to 11 in previous videos, so if your favourite board game isn't in one of our top 10s, maybe we've covered it in an earlier video.
Or maybe we haven't actually played it and we would love to hear your comments, your suggestions of games for us yet to discover.
Now, the games we're going to feature in this are our kind of perennial favourites. They're the games we are never going to say no to playing. They're the games that aren't going to leave our collection.
Absolutely.
Now, if you're enjoying what we're doing, and if you're watching this going, that British couple are lovely, I want to see more of their content, well, please do make sure you are subscribed to our channel. It really does help us out.
It really does indeed. But, you know, let's chat. Let's just get into this list, shall we? Number 10. I'm going to kick off with a fantastic game in a whole nother universe, a whole nother world. This is Dune Imperium. I have played Uprising. I would like it to join our collection, but we currently have the normal one. I think I do prefer Uprising a little bit, but in general, this is a worker placement game. You're going to have some deck building as well. I love how those things kind of tend to combine. Of course, we are looking to get spice. You can't do much without spice in Dune. We're also looking to get 10 points. And there's so many different ways to go about doing that. Your affiliations with the different factions, what cards you're going to be bringing up, and how you use those cards is, I think, probably one of the most interesting points that I find. Which ones are you using to take your workers out to the correct places? And which ones are you stashing back to allow you to buy better cards, do better deck building, and of course maybe have some extra daggers on them to surprise a few people in those battles and see if you can win some battles, adding one or two little stabby knives in in the pot there. I love some of the expansions as well, you know, when you've got the extra little ships and all that fun stuff mixing into it. I think as this game has grown with the expansions, it's just become more and more epic, and it's one, as we said at the top, can't imagine not wanting to play, not wanting to get this one to the table.
As we move through my top 10 specifically, I think you'll notice that a lot of the games I really love have strong narrative or narrative that interweaves in the mechanics in some way. And I don't think you get many games with stronger kind of overarching stories than you do in Detective City of Angels. Now, this obviously is based in that kind of golden age of Hollywood, which is one of my favourite periods to cover, generally in films or in books and as well in board games. And this is a detective game, as the name suggests, where you're having to solve crimes that are based on real life things that happened and superbly written throughout the whole of this game.
Yes, it is well written.
I've played this game predominantly solo, and it works really well as solo, with kind of sometimes a slightly deeper, richer story as you're moving around trying to solve the crimes using clues and checking that in an evidence book to kind of slowly crack the case. It's very difficult to talk about this without going into too much of the cases, but to do so would rob you the enjoyment of playing this incredibly thematic, exciting game. And of course, solo is only half the game. The game really does come alive when you're playing with many people, because that is when you become the chisel.
Yes.
And you are unfolding the story. You are telling the tale to the detectives around the table. And that's when the game of skill and deduction come in.
And the sleuthing hats come to the table.
Can't play this game without sleuthing hats. It's basically a prerequisite. I don't know why they aren't included in the box, apart from that kind of miniature form.
Yeah, they do have the little ones,
little
but
plastic
you've got to
ones.
have them on your head as well, I think.
Now, as this game goes, a good kind of chisel will control the game. He'll give enough clues to the detectives so they're on an even playing field. They're slowly cracking the case, racing to solve it first. But if you see someone's lagging behind, well, there's nothing stopping you giving them a helping hand. If someone's arrogantly toying with you, well, perhaps the people they are interrogating aren't so willing to talk. And that's where the sleight of hand, the bluffing come in. And I love it when you're like, oh, I didn't mean to show you that. Of course I did. But they don't know I didn't mean to show them that. As this game goes on, there's been more and more expansions of increasingly complicated cases. All of those have that noir feel of a gritty underbelly of LA.
Star Wars Rebellion is a game that we've loved playing together from the get-go. In fact, it's the first game that we ever played together, even though at that point you weren't that into board games.
I played a lot of party games, but this was a big box.
We sort of discovered and fluffed our way through it, and now I think it's certainly one of our favourites. We have a tradition of playing it on the same date as that same day that we first played it. We won't play it without the expansion, but what this game gives you is Star Wars in a box. You are, you're either Darth Vader going around trying to blow up planets like a real baddie, or you're the rebels hiding your base, trying to not give anything away in terms of where you might be and how much that stuff, how much of that stuff you've got there and what you can defend around it. And one's going out exploring all these places. Is this the base? Is this the base? Is this the base? But whilst you're doing that, you're using these different characters from the films. They do things similar to the kind of character that they are. There's so many fabulous miniatures, particularly for the Imperials.
There's a lot more for them.
Yes. That the board really just feels like an epic space saga. We always switch who's playing which sides. Each time we play it, we probably get at the table 2-3 times a year. And it's just, I don't know, I think it's always just going to be like an us game and something that's special to our relationship.
I had troubles deciding if Galactic Cruise had a place on my top 10, bearing in mind we've had it less than a year. And I toyed with it, I was like, is that good enough? Have I played it enough to determine it is one of my 10 favourite games of all time? And obviously the fact it is here means I came to the conclusion that absolutely it should be. There's so many reasons I love Galactic Cruise. I've said in the past in other videos that worker placement is one of my favourite game mechanics. And what I love about Galactic Cruise is the fact it says yes. This is a game that says, in worker placement, suddenly you get the frustration of, I can't go there. Someone else has been there. That would have been a perfect move for me, but I can't. Galactic Cruise? Yeah, you can. Just go there. The person who is there will be shipped off there, get a little benefit for it, and you can still do your thing. And when you're there, you're doing 2 actions. You're doing on where you place the worker, or you can do some adjacent. But maybe someone controls the cog between those. Does that mean you can't do the action? No. You just give them a little benefit. As you're playing through the game, it's so welcoming, despite the absolute complexity and the intricate nature of what's going on. There's fantastic rules that means it never feels particularly heavy and hard to start, despite it having that complexity and that depth of strategy that you can do. Are you going to take those cards, give you a leg up and have the ideal card to place at the ideal moment and give you that big score bonus that makes you think somehow I've broken this game? And the theme too. It's space, it's exciting, but it's not space battles. It's going on a space adventure with a family who are going to happen to enjoy going on a bouncy castle when they're on their space cruise, going to ideal planets for families. Obviously, your advertising has paid off and you've got the blessed clientele. But my favourite moment of it all is you've built this spacecraft, your cruise ship, and you have that moment where you've got to blast off and you count down, doing little things on each stages, and suddenly you have that moment of, oh no, I haven't got enough fuel, or discard a card. You will have. There's nothing stopping you achieving what you want to do in this game. And it might be a case of, well, maybe my strategy isn't as good as other people's. Well, they'll win, but you'll still have a fantastic time playing it. And I think it's testament to how much I love Galactic Cruise is that despite it's taken 3 hours to play, it always, as soon as you finish, you're like, oh, can we play it again? So it might be new. I might not have played it as many times as a lot of other games on this list, but this is a game I'm so excited about playing more of. And we've got more expansions to add to it, which I think is just going to increase my love for it.
Yeah. So Blood Rage has been on my list for quite a few years now, but I don't think it's ever been in the top 10. Last year, I think it was all the way down at 34, partly to do with we've only recently had our own copy. We've previously played other people's copies, or been playing it on BGA, and so I hadn't had the opportunity to play it as much. Just knew how much I really loved it when we did play it. Love the theme. I'm always going to love those kind of Viking kind of games. But now we've got our own copy. We've played it a bit more. It's come right back up there. I really enjoy that idea of drafting through the cards at the beginning. You kind of know everything that's going to be around, but who's got what and what surprises are going to happen. People's intentions in this game are always a little bit cagey. You never really know if someone's doing the low-key strategy, if someone just is looking to bring as many people into a battle so that everyone can die because they're going to get double points or something. You can always surprise people with this. And of course, there's awesome minis that look fantastic. And when a player is going to bring in those and really sort of decimate another player in that territory, it's always fun to watch.
I've said in other videos how great it is when you know, I think I quite like this game. And then when you table it and we had such an epic game last time we played it, and you're like, okay, this is what makes board gaming great.
Exactly.
One of the first games I ever backed on Kickstarter was this whiskey making game. And I do like a whiskey. And when I found out there's a game that kind of mirrored the mechanics of making not just whiskey, but many alcoholic beverages, I was like, yep, that's a game I need. And I went all in and got as much as I can. Of course, I'm talking about Distilled.
And it's funny you talk about that because it's actually moved up just one space this year into my number 7. So instead of talking about that next, let's talk collectively.
You'd like it that a little bit more than me.
Just a teeny bit. And probably because of the expansion coming up. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Obviously, we need to say you now work for Paverson, but we discovered Distilled a long time before you did. In fact, I still love the central mechanic you get in this game. Obviously, you've got the cards you need to make different alcoholic beverages from your market. You added your alcohol in, and then you mix up all those cards. And much like in real life, you take the top card off and the bottom card off, which mirrors the distilling process.
Yes.
And then what you reveal could be that delicious whiskey that you're going to add and age and get those beautiful flavours in.
It could also be moonshine.
Yeah, or it could just go wrong. And obviously, you can do this simultaneously around the table, but we love the theatre of it all.
Yes.
You know, when you have that moment where you've invested so much into making that perfect drink at that perfect time, and then it all goes wrong, and the sugars come out, and you've not made what you wanted to, and people around the table are laughing and pointing. And even when you then reveal what you've made, if you've been aging your whiskey, you don't know what it's going to even taste like. So you have those flavours cards get revealed. Obviously, it's a lot of just flavour text, but it adds to the theatre of it all. It makes it exciting for people around the table, and it makes it an event game.
Yeah, and we're the kind of people that are going to be pouring some new whiskey that we've not discovered yet, or some new thing that we're putting on one of the other flights, something a bijou or something that we've never really tried before. We're those kind of people that are going to bring it to life with that kind of thing. And I think that's why it's hiked up a little notch for me this year as well, because we've been playing with the cocktails expansion, which will be coming out shortly, for a video that you might have seen on here, but also for my work. And adding cocktails just adds so much to this game. It's a big box expansion, and you're going to be taking those spirits that you've already made in the same way. You're going to be making cocktails out of them, and who doesn't want to do that? In the same way, we've got that interesting puzzle with the glass bottles and different types of bottles from different regions. We're also now going to be having a similar puzzle with the types of glasses we're putting our cocktails into, and we're going to become more and more known around the world. So we're going to be spreading our renown around this map, and it's going to be getting us loads of extra things. You feel like you can do more, and you feel like there's so many different paths to victory now, with collectors and lots of other things that are bringing in all these new different personal goals, and there's so many different options to score, that it adds so much to this game that it just has picked it up a little bit for me.
I think when you've played Distilled as many times as we have, we're talking hundreds of times, you get into a pattern of doing it. The cocktails expansion mixes up the game. Pun always intended.
Yes.
A second entry now from Ryder Games, and a huge leap up the table for Final Girl. It's a lot lower on my list last year, but I've just completely immersed myself in this game, trying out as many different combinations as I could. Now, obviously, there's 3 seasons now. We're heading into season 4, so there's a lot of different films, and these are all obviously inspired by horror films and kind of scary science fiction, pulp culture references that are immediately obvious to us. We feel like exactly the target audience for this game. And the mechanics are obviously familiar to me because I've also played a lot of Hostage Negotiator.
Yes.
But with the new kind of map that plays out in Final Girl and the variability you get from being able to change your Final Girls and your killers and your locations, there's a reason why this is in the top 100 on BGG now. It is the kind of go-to recommendation for a solo game because it's got enough chance in it that it feels exciting, yet ways of mitigating dice rolls so you still feel in control of the game. And every time you're revealing those cards, the twists and turns in your adventures that you come across make it just kind of, it feels genuinely like you are engaged in an unfolding movie narrative of these fantastic horror films.
Last year, Root was my number 4, so it has slipped just a teeny tiny bit. But I think that's purely due to us not having the opportunity to play it physically as much as we did the previous year. I mean, we do play a reasonable amount online on the app with friends who know the game pretty well, which is great. But my preference is always to actually get it onto a table, which we haven't had the opportunity
certain
to
factions
do as much.
work just better in person.
Yeah. And of course, Root looks very, very cute and has lovely cute critters, very distinctive art. But this is a woodland war. Let's not beat around the bush.
This is not your kind of cute family children's game at all.
And yes, you do kind of need to know what everyone else is doing in their very asymmetric thing. Everyone, there's general rules, and at least one person's going to break this rule, and then another one's going to break a different rule. And you need to know how everyone around the table is able to score in order that you can stop them from scoring and kind of maximize the way that you score at the same time. So there is a lot of knowledge that you need to know going into this game, but it's always so fun. I think the player boards and the player aids are really great, actually, like in terms of reminding you what you can do in that faction and in what order you can do different things, daylight and what happens in the morning and all these kind of things. And when you have those sort of epic battles and it's coming down to the wire where you need to get 30 points to win. So, you've got one player at 27, one player at 28. You're all entering that next round thinking, can I scrape enough points? How can I stop them from doing something? So it's always a fun play.
It's been my favourite game of all time for a number of years. I wonder how soon I'm going to be mentioning it though. Another game that was my number 1 once upon a time is Scythe, and obviously I still love this game. A bit like you, I feel this has maybe slipped because we haven't had a chance to table it, but every time we have tabled this game, whether it be 2-player and a kind of game of cat and mouse, or a 7-player full-on epic war, I've loved the experience. Obviously, you've got asymmetrical powers, another thing I love, and also different economy boards for every player in every game. So while you can all do the same actions, how much it will cost you to do those things will vary. But obviously each of your different factions behave differently and have a different kind of approach to the game. But I love that it welcomes those different approaches and that you can be as competitive by just being a massive warmonger, going around trying to battle as many people, as you can be just going exploring and just being nice to people, because popularity in Scythe is a big thing. Ultimately, the most popular by the end of the game will win, but the actual end game is triggered by someone achieving kind of 6 of the objectives. And knowing when that's going to happen is kind of crucial, because you don't want someone to just leap up and suddenly they've done 6 and you've done 4, because, that's never going to be a game-winning score for you. And I love the again, the theatre of the battles, where you're discreetly using some of the power you've accumulated. You're placing in a card. What card have you placed in? It gets revealed. Turns out you didn't place in a card at all. You didn't want to be in that battle. There's no benefits to you winning.
That's what I do.
Your opponent has wasted a load of resources, and you can swoop in next turn, or maybe someone else will swoop in next turn and take control of that factory, which means you'll control more of the board.
Once you know that good card is out of the way.
Yeah. There's big events that happen in this. The campaign, the Rise of Fenris, was the first time we played a kind of full campaign together. We loved that experience, and each of the kind of additional expansion just build on that beautiful kind of 1920s alternative Europe world. It looks so distinctive. No other game apart from its sequel look like this. It's a big kind of table presence.
Yes,
kind of majestic there. I love playing Scythe, and one day soon I really do hope we get to have that 7-player war again.
We've had quite a few Japanese themed games on this list, and one of my favourites of those is the White Castle. I think it's just so clever. The way that it plays how it does. You're going to have these dice on the bridges. You're going to be picking the dice to go in the different section. Depending on your player count, depends on whether you can stack them or not, which adds a little bit of interesting play. But I mean, at this stage, we're always playing White Castle with the matcha expansion as well, which gives you even more options and things to do. And it's all about how well can I chain up my actions. You're only getting either 9 or 12 actions in this game total, depending on with it or without the expansion. So you really have to work out a way to get that economy going and to be able to do all the things that you need to do. And it just feels so satisfying when you manage to go and do that one thing, and it gives you this bonus action to be able to place a warrior out. And that particular warrior lets you place a gardener out. And that gardener is then going to give you all this extra stuff at the end of your turn. So then next turn, you're going to have a whole load of stuff to then be able to do these other actions that do this, this, and this, and how effectively you can chain all these fun things together and have as many of the epic turns as you possibly can in this game is definitely going to decide whether you're going to win or not. I think they're all interconnected, so it don't feel like you can say, well, if I get all my gardeners out, I'll definitely win with the gardener route this time. What you have in the gardener, what you have in the castle with your courtesans and how many warriors you have out, they're all sort of intertwined in terms of scoring. So you really have to work out the whole game rather than just choose one small path to victory, in my opinion. And I think that's partly what makes it such a fun puzzle to play, and the fact that it looks so beautiful.
Great weekday game. Proper thinky weekday game.
Yes, it really is.
You have to make every single turn count.
Yes.
The rest of my top 10 is all thematic. It's all about telling a story or having, clever mechanics. Then I've got just one. And I did debate, well, does this have a place amongst all of these kind of heavy, thinky games? Well, of all the kind of big events we've had, the big moments we've had playing games, so many of them are from conventions, and so many of them are from when we played just one. In terms of kind of just fun, I don't think we've had as much fun in the last year as we had playing just one. It should be called just fun, but that wouldn't explain what you do in the game as clearly. I love the fact that we don't ever play this at the recommending player count.
Never.
We don't really follow the rules about scoring. It's more just, let's get all our mates together. Let's get a load of strangers in sometimes.
Yes.
And just have the kind of hilarity that is trying to use one word to describe another word without saying the same word as someone else. I love the fact you can explain it that simply and straight away get everyone playing. We loved it so much, we once hosted a big game of Just One at a convention, and it will be what we look forward to most when we go to a convention, and we know on a Saturday night the drinks will be flowing and someone will come up with a ludicrous reason why they think their individual word describes another word so perfectly, despite the fact that it's so abstract and weird. Even their wife can't explain why they could have possibly picked that. Of course it's not rule heavy. Of course it's not got beautiful miniatures and beautiful art. But it has beautiful gameplay that leads to beautiful fun moments.
Yes, with beautiful friends. Well, from just one, I'm really going to switch things up and start talking about attacking some barbarian hordes.
Obviously.
The Great Wall, I absolutely love how it's sort of a game of two halves, and you've got this classic Euro feel about it, this worker placement element, which has that interesting twist again. Like time and time again on this list, we've had really love this worker placement, it does this little thing different. And this is the same with the Great Wall, where you don't just go somewhere and get something. You've got to wait until everyone goes there and it's full, and then you will get something. And that twist really changes your economy of what you're looking to get when you're going to be activating different cards to your benefit. It also has that really fun thing that I love in games, where you play your card down and then all the other players around have the option to essentially follow that action to a slightly lesser degree. So if you use all of your resources following everyone else's actions and doing all these great fun things, which is really fun because there's no downtime really, because every turn is your turn. Great. But then it comes round to your turn and that spot that you've been really waiting to get that specific resource from hasn't filled up yet. So you don't have enough to be able to play your turn to its full effect. You need to make sure not to do that. And that's really fun. And it has lots of different options to upgrade in different ways. You've got these gorgeous miniatures, like particularly the cavalry look fantastic. Yes. And you're basically building up the Great Wall, of course. You need to defend against your enemies. And here comes part 2 of the game, which is, it really makes it interesting that you're building the wall, you're getting all these resources, you don't want to put shame to the Emperor because you're doing your part in the battle.
How about that wall?
And then that second half is all about what of the enemies can you kill? How can you get to who of them? Which ones can you get the best points from and take away that honor, that reward that you're getting from your other opponents, stop them from getting all the good kills, basically, for getting seen to be great at war. You want to be seen to be great at war, but you want to do enough, just enough to be seen to be great at war, but not enough to maybe use everything up too much. You want to let other people do some of the legwork, but just do enough to not be shameful. And again, that half of the game has that interesting balance between how much do I need to do, how much is enough, how much of this wall am I building, how much do I want to do there, am I maximizing my economy well, that when you pull this thing together, which looks incredible, the artwork is immense, it just makes for this super interesting and different game.
Libby, you've mentioned it already, but obviously Star Wars Rebellion is a game that's important to us, which is why it is so high on my list. But take that away. Let's pretend we never had that date when we were playing this game and we just play it on its own merits. It is still a fantastic game for Star Wars lovers like us. It does feel like kind of two different games that are melded into one. When you are playing as the Rebels, you look at that build queue, and you're like, how on earth am I going to be remotely able to stand up against this almighty force?
Yes.
And you start having to, that's where you have to be good at the bluffing. And the more we play it, the harder that bluffing game becomes. Because I've done with the Rebels, I'm definitely on a thematic relevant place to mirror the original trilogy. I'm on half, aren't I? Oh, the Mandalorian, we're watching a lot of that. I must be on Mandalore. I've tried every different technique now to hide my rebel forces. That it's becoming now a game of bluff and double bluff.
Yes.
Well, maybe I actually am on Hoth because, I definitely wouldn't be there. And I love that about that. I love that I get to play it with you in that way. And like I was saying about other games, those memories. I remember when you've been out with the Death Star, going from planet to planet, just obliterating. And of course, you obliterated Naboo because, let's get rid of Jar Jar Binks.
Obviously.
Well, unfortunately, annoyingly, that's where my rebel base was because I thought, you're going to ignore that because of Jar Jar Binks. Sometimes these games can stretch on for hours as we play, that slowly getting a reputation, telling the universe that actually the Empire's not great. Just rebels, join us. That's a good plan. Obviously, you've talked about how the cards mirror the films, but you can twist the films. What would have happened, if Luke had defected to the dark side? How would that have played out? And you can have those options where you can just twist the familiar stories. It's we play it over the Christmas period, and despite all the family fun, being able to play Rebellion with you is the thing I look forward to.
Yes.
And for me, perfect game, perfect memories means it's always going to be a game I cherish.
Lost Ruins of Arnak was my number 5 last year, and it has just come up a little bit, maybe to do with that big adventure chest that's come along with it. This is a game that we loved from the start. Of course, you've got worker placement, you've got that combination with the deck building going on, you're going up tracks, all those fun things happening, and what a great theme that it wraps around there. You really feel like you're adventuring out into the unknown, looking to discover stuff. Always surprised when some of those guardians, like the monkey, comes along and he wants 4 coins, and I never have 4 coins for him. And you think you're doing so well because you've got your arrowhead and you've got this and you've got that. And like, I'm equipped to pretty much deal with anything, but not the monkey. So you're always going to have these bits of surprise that have there. Of course, the more and more that's gone on, there's more and more variety. But what I find so fun is that even though we play together a lot, and I always know, right, if Julian gets the opportunity, he's going to go to that campsite, get that arrowhead to start with. I know his moves. I know what he's going to try and do. But with the different assistants that you might have, with the different cards that you're going to be pulling into your deck and what you're going to have available, perhaps with the different sites that you reveal, the amount of fear that might end up in your deck, seems to change the game so much every time. So it doesn't feel like it's getting stale. And isn't it so fun to go out on these sort of traditional, somewhat familiar to some pop culture adventures and see what's lurking in that cave?
Give me a minute. I'll talk about it later. There was a game you would always champion once upon a time in these lists called Dwellings of Eldervale, and I loved it. I enjoyed playing it, but the theme just didn't grab me. So when I heard they were going to revise it, tweak some of the rules and set it in space, I was like, Andromeda's Edge, I'm going to enjoy you.
Well, perhaps we should talk about this one together, because this one is actually my number 2. As you said, Dwellings is a game that I've loved for a long time. I think 2 years ago it was my number 10.
Okay.
I like Andromeda's more, and so last year and this year it is my number 2. And I haven't really kept Dwellings on just because I feel the DNA of these two games are so similar, and they would both be really high that it seemed like a space that was taken for kind of like two of a very similar thing.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love so much of this game. It's going to be kind of hard to summarise it quickly, but it starts off with different factions having different abilities. I've already mentioned how much I love asymmetric powers.
Yes.
And these do all play, despite there being so many different factions, all play differently. I love going out and doing the revised combat. That was an exciting part in Dwellings, but now they've made it better, so it feels much less chancy. The combat, though, is so good. You know, rolling dice. Who's got the highest dice? Well, great. You're winning. Got a tie? Next dice along. What's your next highest? Great. You've won. And it's less chancy now than it was in Dwellings because you have re-rolls if you've got more ships there. You've got shields. And obviously, Raiders are a big, exciting part of this game, which I think they've just
really are.
hoisted everything that was there before and made it genuinely exciting.
Yes.
It feels like something dramatic happens when you take on one of those raiders. And as you're playing through the game, the clock's ticking and events eventually come out which twist up the gameplay even more. But are you going to focus on your battles, or are you going to explore the other elements of the game, such as, building buildings?
Yes.
Actually dwelling in space.
Yeah, and getting those buildings out is super important. You're going to need to do that. You need to keep your eye, I suppose, on the objective. And there's going to be some awesome cards that are going to let you mitigate varying things, like in battles, like helping you do all these different things. But what I find quite exciting about Andromeda's Edge is that when you have that return of workers phase in the game, you've put all your ships out there, you've done some fun battles, there's nothing else to put in, and now you're pulling everything back. You get to do so much in that part of the game that it feels so fun. You can build out this really great engine by going to those places with your ships and pulling out these new tiles, activating them, putting moons onto them so they're even more exciting, do even more for you than they did before. And then as you pull these ships back, you can be repairing stuff, you can be adding new things, you can be upgrading different things, and really changing your whole game for the next round when everything's now available again. It's not just a case of pull it back, that's a wasted turn, right, okay, here we go again. It's so impactful, the drawback and what you do with it and how you've built your engine to make that work, that it then really affects the rest of that next round and then following rounds from there. And it's so fun seeing people kind of climb up these different tracks and kind of thinking, right, okay, I need to not let them run away there, I need to kind of keep up with these points, and just the little elements of, once I get to this point of the track, I'm going to be able to get this little boon, so it makes sense for me to do this at this point to try and get these different bonuses. There's so many things merging together,
and they're so well interweaved. It doesn't feel like, what do I have to do when I do that? It feels instinctive that you're going to get these tracks. You're upgrading from getting those things. Yes. It's so clever how it all works. And the recent Genesis expansion takes all the other bits on dwellings that are missing in this, adds them back in, and takes this fantastic game and somehow makes it even better.
Yeah, and it adds even better cards, if you can believe it, even more impactful and wow factor cards. And we've certainly enjoyed Andromeda's Edge with Genesis a huge amount more, even though it has stayed static at my number 2.
I think it's telling that occasionally I see on Instagram people are posting pictures of they're playing Andromeda's Edge, and I say, they're playing Andromeda's Edge, and I'm jealous.
Yes,
I want to be playing it too.
Yes.
So, which is going to take the number 2 spot between the two obvious games that I haven't yet talked about? Well, it is in fact, yes, Arnak. Obviously, you've covered a lot of what I love about this game, but for me, it's about recreating those adventures. I love those action movies growing up. When explore, go into the jungle and fight for the heroine, come out chopping down the weeds, getting in a plane and flying away a hero. And obviously I loved the video games that are based on that, and stories as well. And it does feel like I'm taking part in that adventure, especially so when we play the campaign that takes you on a literal journey. The 2-player campaign you can play with a proper evolving story. And obviously we've played this game a lot. We've talked about how, you can have different temples, introducing new elements, but obviously you've got different leaders as well.
I mean, sometimes you play with a model that looks an awful lot like Lara Croft.
Strange that, isn't it?
Strange.
But they have increasingly complex leader abilities. So it still remains accessible for people new to board gaming, and often it's a kind of go-to, let's have a kind of exciting adventure game. But there's complex ones as well, with gears and mechanics and being able to place tokens on your player board that just shift up the kind of complexity and what you need to think about when you're doing your turn. There's enough kind of different approaches just in the base game of, will I take on the monsters? Will I focus on those tracks? Am I going to get assistance? But obviously, to play it well, you need to do a combination of all of those and take advantage of those item cards and those artifacts cards. anytime someone says, fancy a bit of Arnak, I'm going to be
Absolutely.
ready for an adventure.
Yes. Yedo is yet again my number one. I think that there is maybe some sentimentality about this, but I do think it's an epic game. This game, I think I played first in 2012, around that time, when the original version came out. And I think it's definitely partly to blame for me.
For all of this.
Yes, for me falling in love with board games proper. Yedo really did that for me. It kind of opened my eyes and gave me that wow factor that, like, board games can do this. And so partly for that reason, and partly because of how much I always want to play it. I always want to discover more about it and get into it more. That just love of it has never really waned. I find it so exciting to have all these different missions in my hand that I'm trying to complete, and going out, needing to be at certain places. Maybe I need to go to the shop to get a certain type of weapon. Maybe I need to have someone in the red light district because something dodgy's gone on with a bunch of geishas and I need to go check it out. There's always this interesting story and theme going on with each of the missions that you have in hand that you're trying to complete, that you're going to need to be in a certain place at a certain time with certain weapons to achieve the espionage, the murder, the backstabbing, whatever's going on those missions. There are varying different types of them. And yep, that's great. You complete your mission. That's very satisfactory. Brilliant. And it's very thematic and it's got those writings on there. Tick, tick, tick. But what really makes this interesting is to do well, you need to somehow merge these missions. You need to create an order where you're able to complete one as best you can, at least each round. Mm-hmm. And trying to marry up when you give away a certain weapon, and are you then going to not need that again? Can you trade it with somebody else for something that they no longer need? And how you're getting everything to click together with all the surprising stuff that happens. That watchman moves, and if you haven't got a ninja to be in the way, that whole area is blocked. That might have messed up your entire plan for that round. Some event might happen where a whole area is flooded or something crazy. Someone might go and rob that church before you, and you needed that money to pay the extra stuff to get the specific dojo that you needed. There's so many little intricate parts of your planning and scheming that have to come together to not just complete that one mission that you've got that you're looking to do now, but to set you up in the future to do all these other ones in an arrangement that's really going to kind of cascade like dominoes of being able to achieve them. And that's what sets my brain on fire and makes it really exciting. What specialists are we using in the game is always fun to add those in as well. The board itself looks beautiful, and it's just a fantastic production, fantastic stories to be told along the way of intrigue and espionage.
So yes, muffin time is my... Oh, my kidding. It was always going to be Root. I long for the day, actually, where I discover a game where I'm like, maybe this is better than Root, because what a spectacular game that would have to be.
Yes, I think the same about Yedo.
I mean, Root, on paper, shouldn't be a game I love as much as I do. Obviously, the art is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I've never really one to go too much for battles. Root changed all of that. And once, yes, the barrier to entry and the learning curve is a right angle. You have to learn the factions. And not only that, you have to learn all the expansion factions, because I'm not going to play with just the base game. Fortunately, I'm so lucky to have a group of friends who know the game as well as I do, if not better, who is always willing to play this game. Because sometimes it isn't about winning. I like to play factions that are just a bit weird and crazy because I enjoy just playing the game. I want to be those otters. I want to try and be a Del Boy and sell stuff to people and try to persuade them round All I need to do to be happy playing this game is get to that dignified 15 points.
The halfway mark.
I just need to get that far and have a great time playing, and I always do. Whether it be a faction I don't get on as well with, like the lizards, doesn't matter. I still have a fantastic time playing it. We have a habit of changing the map. We have a habit of just chucking locations. If there's not enough of us playing, there'd be a hireling in there. Sometimes just want to be the vagabond that can blow up a clearing just because it's funny.
That's the rebellion part of you coming out there.
Obviously, with the expansions come extra complexity, and I embrace that. I look forward to the new expansions coming just to see how they mix up with the familiar factions, how it will change the approach you have to use them. Because learning this game as well is just a fun experience. Taking on a new faction, getting to master those is deeply satisfying and rewarding. And it's not going to work at 2 players, but I still manage to somehow play this an awful lot throughout the year. It's kind of, I'm always getting a game in every few weeks, be it online or ideally in person. And I don't think I've ever had a bad game in all the hundreds of times I played this. There's one time actually when someone was just annoying with the lizards, but apart from that time, I absolutely love Root. And yes, it was never really in doubt when we come up with this list. It's always going to be Root for me. So that are our top 10 board games of all time.
Indeed. What are your top 10 board games? And are any of our ones on your list? We really would love to hear from you.
And more excitingly, have we told you about a game you've never heard of? You're like, well, they seem to really love it. Let us know. Let us know what would be good for us to play. And as I said at the beginning, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy what we're doing, please do subscribe. It truly does help this channel grow, and it helps us out as well.
It does indeed, yes. But we will continue to be talking about our love of board games over this next year, usually 2 times a week in different videos, previews and things. So we would love to come and have you join us, watch and tell you about all of the new ones that we find that we love.
Maybe they'll make our future top 50. But thanks so much for watching this video and for watching the series as a whole.
See you next time.
Hello, this is a kind of Marvel post-credit scene. You might have seen us throughout this video reaching down. That's because this fluffy idiot wouldn't let us record the most important video of the year. So if throughout this video you were like,
it's a funny noise. His hand's a bit weirdly over here.
Because this guy.
This guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching anyway.
Needy weirdo.